I have no personal nostalgia for the infamous Scooby Doo series, but at some point we all accepted it as a part of classic American culture, like the Smurfs or Mario or Superman. I've watched a couple of episodes and a movie, and honestly, I wasn't as invested in this series as everyone else was. I actually prefer the Teen Titans Go episode where they mock Scooby Doo more than the actual episodes I saw, even while acknowledging that the series is definitely not bad. But eventually I cracked and decided to check out the newest Scoob movie, even if the reviews I saw were pretty negative, and the trailer didn't interest me that much. Weirdly though, this movie does something really novel by saving its best jokes for the actual movie. I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but to me, this was way better than the trailer made it out to be. After the surprisingly quick origin story, since the trailer spent a lot of time on it, Shaggy and Scooby get attacked by these really awesome shape shifting robots who are pretty creative on the surface but bear a little too much resemblance to the minions. Then they get rescued by the Blue Falcon and his team, while they explain that Scooby is a rare dog type and that he's special, and yeah, you can see where this is going. Shaggy gets upset and they have a big blowout right before the third act, and then they're back together. So, yes, this movie is pretty predictable. The twists are very underwhelming, and I guess them 20 minutes before they were revealed. And that's really disappointing because my favorite thing about Scooby Doo was that their twists were really interesting and made sense. These twists just felt like they were paying homage to the original, instead of having an importance to the story. In addition, these characters do not have the same great banter that they had in the original Scooby Doo.
73 meters longer than the highway.
Meters, Velma? I don't even know what that means. What are we, in Europe?
It's a quantitatively superior measurement system. Get with the program, Fred.
Characters are all fantastically voiced, but the dialogue is so forced. But the film does have some pluses against the series. The animation, as I saw in the trailer, is actually fantastic and the best I've seen all year. Besides this, everything pops and it makes the snappy comedy and the ridiculously fast paced action that much more enjoyable. There are also a lot of quickly introduced small things that ended up paying off, like the robot with the vacuum head, Dick mentioning his dog briefly in the first half hour, and the robots being able to turn into bowling balls and pins. Yes, that came back in the most clever way possible. While those things are all great, the core of this emotional story is Shaggy and Scooby. Their dialogue was a lot more genuine than the banter of the rest of the crew, and even if the moral is not that original, the execution was actually decent. That said, I feel like I need to get into my mixed thoughts, so the last third act and the final battle means that I'm going to have some spoilers from here on out. Skip to this time frame to avoid them. So, the final battle. This movie has been leading up to the kind of rushed but pretty interesting opening of hell in order to save Dick Dastardly's dog. That is bonkers and pretty respectful to the Scooby Doo lore, since the show is sometimes known to stray a little bit to the dark side. While I do understand that it is part of the show and therefore an homage, it's kind of weird to go from a lighthearted comedy to opening the gates of hell as a huge three-headed dog emerges from the gate. But I guess that's kind of how the show worked too. Basically, everyone is trying to send the pooch back into the underworld, and honestly, it's pretty enjoyable. This hound has such a cool and frightening design that it becomes really enjoyable to see these characters trying to bring him back. But this scene is also where the cliched character arcs are resolved in the most boring way possible. The Falcon realizes that the true power was within him all along. Shaggy and Scooby realize that their friendship is all that matters. And the vacuum robot saves everyone because Daphne cleaned his top. Which is my favorite arc, definitely, if only because it's executed pretty well. But then the very final part of this movie, before the epilogue, is so stupid. The gang literally tell Shaggy and Scooby out of nowhere that one of them needs to close the gate to the underworld from the inside, only for the movie to bring Shaggy back 3 minutes later in the most lazy way possible. So then, what was even the point? It's not like this plot point was explained earlier, and so the movie would feel like it's ignoring a point. It's just more padding, which this movie has a lot of, by the way. I don't know what the point of this caveman battle was, but I do know that it was really stretched out, and then there's a lot of scenes where the gang is just talking about nonsense, which would work if these characters could play off each other in more interesting ways. Spoiler alert, they don't. Needless to say, I did not care for a lot of the ending. It was a mixed bag, which is how I would describe this movie. It's not something I'm gonna see again in a hurry or anything, but you know what? I think there's more positives than negatives overall. I'll give it a weak 6 on 10. See it if you want. Or you can see The Willoughbys instead. It's a really great movie with over exaggerated and dark humor that I absolutely endorse. It's definitely not perfect, but the humor and really interesting animation make it so that the problems don't matter as much. In a year with a lot of so so or just plain bad movies, this one is definitely my favorite so far.